right now on the Georgia Vote.
Nobody is supporting me but the people of Fulton County.
Another eventful election in Georgia. We look at the key races, the winners and losers from Tuesday's primary.
Also,
the state of Georgia should not be represented by two Democratic senators. We need a Republican senator.
Buddy Carter seeks another term in the U.S. House, but he may be interested in a promotion. We sit down with the Savannah Republican and learn more about his plans for 2026.
And we recap this busy week in Peach State politics, where Republican strategist Deanna Harris and former executive director of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, Val Sabah.
All right now on the Georgia Vote.
From the 11 Alive studios, this is the Georgia Vote with Faith Jesse and Zach Merchant.
Well, this week it really was all about the Georgia vote. Georgians went to the polls for a key primary election.
That's right. From Congress to Main Street, Tuesday saw many winners who either won outright, face another test in 4 weeks, or move on to November.
Right here is a grassroots campaign. Nobody is supporting me but the people of Fulton County. And so we need you all the way in.
We haven't had a Republican, and I think conservatives deserve a voice, and Fulton County deserves a choice in who their next DA is going to be, especially given the political climate.
If you are really familiar with DeKalb, you know, there's not the equity that we need. And it's going to take a strong leader because we've had many years of building infrastructure, and the next leader is going to be the person that creates that identity that we need.
It's about the people. It's about making sure that we can connect the dots, fill these potholes, make sure our young people are thriving and winning, make sure our seniors are respected and heard, that they have a place at the table.
I can just say, you know, I'm committed to doing this job the right way. And running my campaign in a way that is reflects how it would be as justice.
We got a lot of things accomplished when people thought we couldn't. Out of 3,700 people, with 600 people sleeping on the floor, now there's nobody sleeping on the floor. So we've done a really good job of partnering with our justice partners, but now the next chapter.
Our work is not done. We have to do everything we possibly can over the next 4 weeks to get out the message, get out the word, and get out the vote.
You don't get chips that store up that you just say, okay, I've got enough service and you owe me this one. It's my job to go out and convince people that I'm the right person for this job.
And you can find all of the election results from across Metro Atlanta right now online. Just search the word election at 11alive.com.
Well, some key races from Tuesday's primary election, they are heading to runoffs, and that's often good news for the second place finisher. Doug Richards with the 11 Alive Politics team shares a little history on runoffs with a focus on a big race unfolding in DeKalb County.
Y'all have the power to make all of this happen.
U.S. Senator Jon Ossoff embodies both the joy and heartache of Georgia's runoff system. In 2017, Ossoff came achingly close to winning a special election for Congress. He nearly received a majority of the vote against 17 opponents. But because he didn't get 50% plus one of the vote, Ossoff faced a runoff against former Secretary of State Karen Handel, who finished a distant second. Yet a month later, Handel flipped the vote and beat Ossoff. 3 years later, Ossoff took on incumbent Republican U.S. Senator David Perdue. Perdue came within a few thousand votes of winning 50% plus one. But he faced Ossoff again in a runoff, and Perdue lost the Senate seat. Second-place finishers are often formidable in runoffs, says Democratic strategist Theron Johnson.
Historically, what we've seen is that the second-place finisher, that person usually is able to gather up a lot of momentum, particularly if it's an incumbent running who they've been forced to run off.
And it's a cautionary tale for Lorraine Cochran Johnson, the top vote-getter facing a runoff in the DeKalb CEO race against Larry Johnson. Or for Clayton County Sheriff, where the challenger, Commission Chairman Jeff Turner, faces incumbent LaVon Allen after Allen finished 200 votes short of winning outright. Or the 3rd Congressional District, where Brian Jack nearly doubled the vote of Mike Dugan, but now they face off in a runoff. Johnson says all runoff candidates will be sweating next month.
And so no matter the place of sort of where you finish, it's how quickly can you get your money raised, get your team to focus on getting voters who did not vote for you back out, and you got to turn back out your base.
Doug Richards, 11 Alive News.
Well, this week I sat down with the grandson of former President Jimmy Carter, Jason Carter shared how his grandfather is doing after more than a year in hospice care. A lot of people are worried, concerned, thinking about your grandfather, former President Jimmy Carter. How's he doing?
So, he's been in this situation now in hospice for more than a year. And it's amazing because when he first went into hospice, we thought we had a matter of days with him. And it's turned out to be this very extended period of time with essentially no change. And so he's in the same situation he's been in for a long time. Obviously, he's mourned the passing of his wife of 77 years, which is just an unbelievable thing. But he's in the same situation he's been in for the last year, and he's really coming to the end, but he knows he's not in charge, and we don't know when that will be.
So I've got to imagine he's doing a fair bit of looking back and reflecting now as well. How are his spirits?
He turned 99 last year, and he's been in this hospice situation for so long, and he's so severely limited physically that we've all been worried, that he's miserable. But we had this moment, he and I, last year on his 99th birthday. We went down, and the Carter Center had done this enormous social media project where there were birthday wishes from all over the world. And I was telling him about it. And I said, Papa, we got all these birthday wishes. And he said, from who? And I said, Papa, from thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I said, and from over 100 countries. And he paused, and it really hit him. In Plains, Georgia, on this day when he was 99, and he said 100 countries. And he kind of teared up, And it's just an incredible idea to think that somebody like that from that little place could have had the impact truly globally that he had, and I think it affected him.
When we asked Jason what he thinks President Carter's legacy will be, his answer was quick: respect. And still ahead, Republican Buddy Carter has been in the U.S. House for 9 years, but could he have an eye on a new job in 2026? We sit down with a congressman to find out.
And later, we head to Gwinnett County and hear from a chef whose choices at the polls are very personal.
There is still plenty to decide this year at the polls, including who will represent Georgia in the United States House of Representatives. All 14 seats are up for grabs in November. This includes Buddy Carter's seat from the state's 1st congressional district. However, in a wide-ranging interview with 11 Alive, the Savannah Republican hinted he might be looking for a new job in 2026. You were unopposed in your primary this year. Mm-hmm. Do you have any plans to run for statewide office down the line?
Well, my concentration right now is I do have opposition in the general election in November, so we're going to concentrate on getting through that. And then God has a plan. I'm a man of faith, and I believe that God's got a plan. I just pray that I have the courage and the fortitude to follow that plan.
You say the courage and the fortitude to follow the plan. It's impossible to know exactly what God's plan is, but you, I'm sure, have some plan as well. Can you say a little more about what you're contemplating?
Well, we certainly, there's no question in my mind that that the state of Georgia should not be represented by 2 Democratic senators. We need a Republican senator. We need both of them. All of our constitutional offices are Republican, so there's no reason why we should have 2 Democratic senators.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but correct me if I'm wrong here. It sounds like Congressman Buddy Carter is saying you're at least contemplating a run for Senate in 2026.
I won't dispute that.
You said in a February 2024 Washington Examiner interview, and I'm quoting here, if conservatives are scared to talk about climate, then we're not going to have a seat at the table when decisions are made. Not all conservatives, not all Republicans in Congress share that view. How did you get there?
Well, first of all, let's keep in mind I have the honor and privilege of representing the entire coast of Georgia, over 100 miles of pristine coastline. The environment is important to our constituents, therefore it's important to me. It's also my home. It's where I've lived all my life, where I intend to live the rest of my life. The environment is important. We've witnessed some of the impact of climate change, rising sea levels and things of that nature. Now, look, I do believe in climate change. I believe that man has an impact on it. I'm not one of these who subscribes to the theory that if we don't have it resolved by day after tomorrow, we're all going to fry. But at the same time, we do need to address it. We need to address it through innovation. We need to address it through mitigation and adaptation, all of those things, but innovation particularly. And we've got to be innovative. We've also got to have an all-of-the-above type energy strategy. Fossil fuels, and one thing I get frustrated with the oil and gas industry, and I'm often telling them this, is that they have not taken the credit they should take in decreasing carbon emissions. We have decreased carbon emissions more in this country over the past decade than the next 7 countries combined, while still growing our economy. We can do it.
You talk about an all-of-the-above strategy. In March, the electric vehicle maker Rivian announced it was pausing its plan to build a roughly $5 billion plant here in Georgia. Is that a threat to Georgia's economy? Is it a threat to Georgia's climate and the nation's climate?
Well, it certainly was not good news. We were disappointed to hear it, although they do assure me that that's a pause and not a stoppage.
And just to be clear, you believe that assurance?
They assure me of that. I don't know whether I believe it, but nevertheless, my hope is that they will continue on with that. Look, we have the largest single economic development project in the history of the state in my district right now, in the 1st Congressional District, and that is the Hyundai EV plant. When it's finished, it'll be the largest EV plant in the world. A $5.5 billion investment going to create 8,100 jobs, probably that many more jobs in ancillary businesses. We're excited about that, very excited, as you can well imagine. To bring that to our state, to bring that to our region is extremely important. Rivian's announcement obviously was a disappointment, but I do feel like the state of Georgia will be able to get over it if they do indeed end it and don't just pause it.
In 2020, you voted to object to the certification of the 2020 election results. Do you stand by that decision to vote that way now that 4 years have passed?
Yes, I do. I believe it was the right decision then. I believe it was the right decision now to have done it then. You have to keep in mind, my decision was based on the fact that there were changes made to the voting process by the Secretary of State here in the state of Georgia. And our Constitution says clearly that those changes should be made by the state legislature and not by the state, not by the Secretary of State. I led a call, at that time I was chair of the Georgia delegation, our Republican delegation, and I led a call on March 21st of 2020 with the Secretary of State. It was a Saturday afternoon. At that time he told us he was delaying the election, and he also told us that he had reached a settlement with the Democratic Party that he was going to send out absentee applications to everyone. And we told him we thought that was a bad idea then. He went ahead with that. And, I've always said that I thought that was the wrong decision to make. Was there any problems with voting in that election? I don't know. And I have resolved that I will probably never know the answer to that question. But what I do know is that I think that was the wrong decision. We had so many calls from people in our office who were saying, I just got 4 absentee ballots at my house for someone who lived here 10 years ago.
Do you believe that President Joe Biden is the lawfully elected president of the United States?
I do, and I said that immediately after he was elected, after he took office, and I committed to trying to work with him in a bipartisan fashion to move this country forward. Unfortunately, I don't believe that the president has cooperated in that way, and I don't believe that he's worked in a bipartisan fashion.
Representative Carter made some news this week with those comments, becoming perhaps the first Georgia Republican to go so far in teasing a Senate run in 2026. But you can be sure he will not be the last. There's speculation many other Georgia politicians, including Governor Brian Kemp, might be considering a campaign of their own. Nothing, of course, is yet set in stone, but 2026 already starting to feel like it is not far away, Faith.
It's certainly going to be a big year. Well, still ahead, we hear from this week's Voice of the Voter. But first, Deanna Harris and Val Sabak join us to break down this week's big stories. You're watching The Georgia Vote. Time now for our Politics Roundtable. Today, joining the panel, we have Val Sabak, currently an assistant vice president at McGuire Woods Consulting. Previously, she served as the executive director of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus. And Republican strategist Deanna Harris. Right now, she serves as managing partner at Midnight Rider Consulting. And Harris works with Jeff Mullis, who served in the state Senate for more than 20 years before retiring in 2022. We want to welcome you to panel. Thank you both so much for being here. We want to start off by getting your reaction to our interview with Congressman Carter, and I want to highlight, he broke a little news there, saying that he has his eyes on a Senate race. We know that Senator Ossoff will be up for election in 2026. What's your reaction from that and others who might be eyeing that?
I'm a little surprised, but excited because we will need a full slate of Republicans to run for that seat and make it extremely competitive.
Are others, do you think, Val, are other candidates going to be joining this sort of early race, full-on announcement jockeying that we're seeing here?
I'm sure they will be. We've already been seeing it with other statewide races. Folks have already kind of been putting their names out there. I'm sure Senator Ossoff is going to be a formidable candidate in 2026. So they are going to have to start jockeying early.
It feels so early, though, Deanna. Is this normal, or are politics getting earlier and earlier and earlier now?
Well, with the amount of money you need to raise, I don't think it's too early. So that's probably why we're here right now already talking about 2026. And it'll be here before you know it, right? Because we're already at 2024 with this presidential election coming up.
Speaking of elections, let's turn now to Tuesday night's primaries. We were here watching the results with all of you all night long. What were the biggest takeaways, maybe the biggest surprises that stuck out to you, Val?
The biggest surprise that I saw was the power of incumbency and how strong that was this year. Especially in the State House and State Senate, you had maybe two incumbents lose their races. One incumbent is in a runoff. Just watching that power kind of come through and folks be happy with who was representing them, that was probably the most surprising thing that I saw.
Indiana, as we talk about the runoffs, there's a couple of races. One of the biggest races, DeKalb CEO, Lorraine Cochran Johnson, she got 46% of that vote. Larry Johnson taking it away with 34%. We know that the second place winners sometimes come out on top.
But that's a really interesting race, and it can get really heated. And remember, they don't have as much time for the runoffs as they used to. So it's kind of like, get down to it and battle of the best.
One of the analysts that we had on our Georgia Vote special election night show pointed out that runoffs are kind of a whole new ballgame. It is a totally new race, he said. I want to shift gears to another race we paid a lot of attention to, Val, was the Clayton County Sheriff's race. And I think we have the results, if we can punch them up on the screen here, because Sheriff Levon Allen was achingly close. You see the results here now. That's a rounded number. He actually got just about 49.5% of the vote. So close to getting over that 50% hump and avoiding a runoff, but he didn't. Now he's got to go to this runoff. What's going through the mind of a candidate like that, Val, who's came so close, but now has to gear up again?
It is about exciting and energizing your folks that came out the first time and trying to figure out where, if there are multiple other candidates that had their supporters, how can you kind of inch into their margins? But, I mean, it is turning your base out, getting folks out. Folks, this election was already a low turnout election. A runoff will probably be a lower turnout. So it is getting into your most dedicated voters, getting them out, making sure they cast a ballot.
Indiana, we want to get the last word to you.
So I'm really surprised because usually low voter turnout works out for the incumbent. So Jeff Turner, who's the former county chairman, was able to kind of sneak through. And like you said, the second place person sometimes can come and win the election after that runoff. So, let's see what happens. It's been a lot of spice out there with that Clayton County election with the sheriff, even with the former sheriff, and coming endorsing his opponent after recently endorsing him previously. So
and his candidate didn't even make it to the runoff, which is really interesting. So, well, thank you both so much for joining our roundtable. We want to discuss so much more.
So much to talk about. We'll have to get you back on next time. After the break, we talk with one Gwinnett County voter who is ready to sink her teeth into this election. Find out what's guiding her choice at the ballot box next. You can't have the Georgia vote without Georgia voters, an electorate as broad as the state itself. Despite what some national polls might suggest, no two voters are alike. And that's why each week we go to where you are to hear, in your own words, what matters most to you. This morning, we head to Beaufort in Gwinnett County to meet up with private chef and self-proclaimed food entertainer Ardra Sinnett, who shares what's driving her vote this year.
I just baked up a little something. This is regular. This is how we snack and munch.
These are good snacks.
It's so hard for people to be controversial or adversarial when they're eating and they're hungry.
You have a bit of an independent streak, too, politically, right?
Yeah. I am officially an independent. I'm not a monolith. Women aren't a monolith. African Americans, Black Americans are not a monolith. So I am an independent thinker. If I had to pick one thing I wanted you to try, is like, oh!
This one.
It's so hard. One thing. Ooh, the bread pudding.
Cheers.
Toast.
We've got a big election coming up in November. When you look ahead to that election, what worries you the most?
That we vote as individuals and not as a collective in our thoughts. When I think about why I vote, it's for everybody. It's not just for me.
When you look ahead to this election, what are the two biggest issues that are going to govern how you vote?
I have a beautiful grandbaby that's on the autism spectrum. I need my grandbaby to have more rights than I had, not less. My grandbaby is nonverbal, and I do believe that she will speak. But if she doesn't, if she's ever violated, if something happens to her, I want her to have the right. I want her mom and me to make decisions about her health care and not my government. Is that fair? I want to be able to decide where she goes to school and how she lives and her quality of life. The things that are important to me, I want them to be discussed. Everybody else gets to talk about everything that's important to them. Can we discuss DEI? Can we discuss affirmative action? Can we discuss reparations? Can we discuss it? Can we discuss the federal legalization of THC? Let's lighten this up. I got a lot of things I'm concerned about. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, though, can we come together?
You've shared your worries, you've shared your big issues for this election season. We always end on this. What are you optimistic about?
The good in people, that we really love each other and we really know that we're the same.
Wow. And our thanks, Ardra Sinnett, a wonderful personality, and we really are grateful to her for sharing her candor and the food, which was delicious. We did that interview in Gwinnett County, which is going to be one of the battleground counties in our battleground state, and I think a lot of national campaigns are going to look at that and hear what she said about not being a monolith.
Absolutely. Zach, thank you so much. An incredible conversation. We want to thank you all so much for watching today. We hope to see you back here next Sunday for another edition of The Georgia Vote.